Hi, my name's Sharon Veitch. I'm the Associate Manager for Moderators, and I'm going to take you through the Centre Visit training presentation. This information is generic in nature, so applies to all industry areas, and your principal or your lead moderator might be able to supplement it with some subject-specific information. I'm going to talk you through how to plan your centre visits, how you're going to get in touch with the centre, how you're going to make sure that you're prepared for the day, what to do when you turn up, how to manage the visit, how to find out what tasks you should be observing and the typical activities you'll be observing, and then also how to complete your report and how to submit that to City and Guilds after you've done the visit. Moderation, remote or visiting. All City and Guilds technical qualifications have got an element of remote moderation. So this is where the marks and evidence are submitted digitally by centres to enable you as the moderator to review the evidence for the synoptic assignment. This is benchmarked against standardised materials and remarked to see if centre marking is within tolerance. Now, some qualifications have also got centre visits, and this slide outlines the objectives of the centre visit. So we've got visits where evidence is difficult to capture digitally. And the grey box in the middle of the slide here shows what we should be doing during visits, what we should be focusing on. So please ensure that the evidence that's gathered by the tutor during the practical sections is sufficiently descriptive in its account of the activity and is consistent across the group. So the narrative captured in the PO form needs to indicate a level of performance, and that should be linking to the band descriptors in the marking grid. So that's a really important part of the visit, is to look at that practical evidence. Is it providing sufficient good quality, valid and reliable enough evidence to support you to make remote moderation decisions? The next reason for you being there is to allow your own independent collection of evidence. So you're going to be observing the learners and you're going to be making your own notes around their performance on the day. So do be prepared with your PO forms or your notebook, and just remember that you're going to retain that evidence. You won't be sharing that evidence with the centre, but you can use it for discussions when you come to compare their note taking a bit later on at the end of the practical. Also, whilst you're at the centre, discuss the staff's understanding of the synoptic assessment. You should take the assessment pack out with you, and it's a good opportunity to go through the tasks and make sure that the centre staff are fully conversant with what the synoptic requirements are. Some qualifications have also got centre assessed assignments or optional unit, so have a chat with centre staff about which assignment or unit they're doing first. Encourage them to upload that early, and just make sure that the centre staff are aware of deadlines associated with the upload requirements. It's not like an EQA visit, so you won't be reviewing portfolios, you won't be looking at staff's qualifications or CPD. So it's very focused on the practical tasks and collecting good quality evidence around those tasks. Please do not discuss centre marks or any potential outcomes or grades. You are just seeing a snapshot of a small group of learners on one day, so it's impossible for you to indicate what marks might be achieved or what grades might be achieved. You won't be at the point of marking having taken place. You haven't been standardised, and certainly awarding to establish grade boundaries for that year has not taken place yet. So steer away from any conversations that might involve discussing marks or grades for groups or individual learners. Also, just be aware of your own body language and your own behaviours. You need to remain as neutral as possible so that no one can make any assumptions about outcomes for learners based on the way that you've acted with individuals or groups. So how are you going to arrange the centre visit, and how are you going to know which centres you've got this year? So first of all, centres are allocated to moderators on the basis of registration. So your principal moderators will have some indication as to how many learners are completing the synoptics in an individual centre. And then you receive some information about that centre and as alongside some contact details for the centre. So once you've got that, please get in touch with the centre as soon as you can. There are some email templates on the Moderator document library, and you should introduce yourself using those email templates. So you don't need to create your own, there are some templates for you to use. Now you need to get in touch with the centre as soon as you've got their information so that you can negotiate an early visit. So you want to visit ideally on their first practical activity day, or as early as you possibly can if they're running the practicals over a number of days. And that's to enable them to act on any advice or any feedback that you give them. If there's something that they need to change following your visit, then they need to have an opportunity to implement that as early as possible. So once you have arranged the date, then please confirm that with the centre. There is another email template for you to use, and copy in the Technicals quality team at that point so that they have got a record of which date the visit is planned for. If you can't make any of the visits that the centre has suggested, then please do get in touch with them again. Do get back to them and see if there's any flexibility in those dates. Often centres can move things around, and there is a little bit of flexibility if you ask them. If it's impossible for you to make the dates that they've suggested and there's no room for manoeuvre, then please let the Technicals quality team know, as well as your principal moderator, and they'll allocate that centre to a different moderator. You need to send out a reminder to the centre about 2 weeks before you go. Just remind them of the date, the start time, etc., and that you will be visiting on that day. That confirms to them that the visit is still going ahead. You will need to check your centre visit planner, which is on the Moderator document library, and this is a document which has been created by your principal moderators, and it indicates at qualification level what it is, which tasks that you'll be observing. So you'll get a really good understanding there of what the particular tasks are, what the activities are likely to be that you're observing, and if you've got any questions about that, please get in touch with your principal or your lead moderator. These are the two emails I mentioned on the previous slide. So this first introductory email is what you send to the centre as soon as you've got their contact details, and it introduces you to the centre and it explains to them that you're going to be doing a visit for a particular qualification. Now, what you will need to review and amend probably is the section in the middle where it says the sample should aim to include. So it's talking about the number of candidates there and the level. And so just be careful to make sure that you insert the correct information there, because you might not be looking at 6 candidates, you might be looking at a different number. Some of you will be looking at both level 2 and level 3. Some of you will be just looking at a single level. So you will need to edit and amend these email templates, but do use that as a starter. That's your template that you should change and make relevant to the centre. So that's your first email. It asks them, the centre, to provide you with up to 3 dates to choose from. And once you have once you know which date it is that you're going to visit, then send this reply email. So this goes to the centre contact, and also you need to copy in the Technicals quality team. And it says to them, which date you're visiting and the time. Now you will need to allow a little bit of time at the beginning, probably about half an hour before the assessment starts, to spend some time with the staff and outline what the format of the day is going to be. This also outlines the address that you've got for the site, and ask them to let you know about anything particular to that site on that day, to the need to arrange parking, etc. And there is a note that says here, moderators are not allowed to discuss grades or marks for candidates. The focus of the visit will be evidence collection. So that's your reply email, and you'll notice there's a section in the middle which is around candidate details. Now, on the morning of the visit, or when you turn up to your visit, the centre will need to furnish you with that detail, which candidates you're going to observe, what their expected level of performance is, and who's going to be observing them during the day. You don't necessarily need that ahead of your visit because things might change, but definitely once you get there, ask for a list of learners so that you know who you're observing. At the beginning of the visit, before the practical assessment starts, do allow yourself some time to chat with the team and hopefully the candidates beforehand. Now with the staff team, you want to be discussing the plan for the day. Where are people going to be? What are they going to be doing? So that you can get a view on the process that they expect to complete throughout that day. Do spend some time explaining to the staff that you are going to be there taking your own notes. You'll be giving them some feedback at certain points. You'll be allowing time for discussions, answering any questions that they've got, but that you won't be discussing any grades or marks that learners might ultimately achieve. There will be some time at the end of your session for feedback. So if the staff team have got other members of staff who want to come along to that, then do ask them to kind of arrange that early on so that you're clear about who's going to attend. If it's relevant and it seems appropriate, before the candidates start their practical, introduce yourself, explain what your role is going to be and try and put them at ease. You are explaining to them that you're not going to interfere with the practical, but that you will be taking your own notes across the assessment time and that you will be observing what they do. So during the visit, whilst the practical is going on, you need to make sure that you've come prepared to take your own notes. So practical observation forms are ideal. You've got one for each learner. Some moderators take notebooks and make their notes in that format, and that's fine. So do make sure that people are aware that you'll be taking your own notes. Also, have a look at the tutor notes and make sure that they're starting to collect narrative and descriptions which are going to be clearly indicating the levels of performance of individual learners. Have a chat with the tutors as they're taking their notes. Get the marking grid out and have a discussion with them about the language that they're using, the words, the terminology that they're using, how that's going to link to the marking grid to indicate to a moderator the performance level of that individual candidate. Make sure you review a completed practical observation form either at the end of the day if the staff have had time to complete one, or within 24 hours. And this is really to ensure that the completed version captures a summary of the practical. It's given an indication of the performance level and it's linking clearly to the band descriptors in the marking grid. So make sure that if you don't see it during the visit that they email it to you the next day. If they do email it to you, explain that you'll be able to give some feedback on an email, and you could use track changes or comments on the PO form to indicate any changes or improvements that need to be made. Whilst you're during the practical session, do, if the opportunity arises, discuss with the tutor their understanding of the synoptics. Do they know what it is that they need to be capturing? Are there any photographs? Is there any digital evidence that they need to be capturing? And do take the opportunity to observe, if photographs have been taken, use that time to observe the process of a photograph being taken. Is the light good? Is the angle right? Is the detail effect? Is it going to enable you to make remote moderation decisions? So do explain to the tutor why you're doing that, and then make sure the end photo is of a good enough quality to support remote moderation. Also, we've mentioned before, where relevant, discuss which centre assessed assignments or optional units are going to be uploaded. And I've put another note on that slide about ensuring your body language and your interactions remain neutral so that there isn't any interpretation of your non-verbal communication around outcomes for individual learners or groups of learners. And remember that often what you say as a moderator becomes gospel. It's the absolute truth as soon as you've gone. So just be careful about your discussions and make sure that you're accurate with the information that you share. At the end of the day, you'll want to spend some time with the staff giving some feedback around the practical evidence that they've been collecting throughout the day. So generally it's the PO forms and any photographs that need to be taken. So it's sitting down with them, making sure that the quality of their PO forms is going to provide you with enough detail around what you've seen on the day, enough descriptive narrative to enable you as a moderator to make some judgments. So it's looking at the quality of those descriptions, how the summary really captures what's happened with the learner during that practical observation. How well does it indicate the level of performance? How well does it link to the wording in the marking grid? And how well does it indicate what band that learner might sit within? So it's looking at the notes, if they're just in note format. If they've got to the stage where they've completed a practical observation form, great, then you can have that face-to-face discussion. But remember, if you don't see a completed one at the visit, then get them to email you one the next day so you can make sure that you've seen a finalised copy. Also, the digital evidence, in some instances it's scans, in some instances it's photographs. So make sure that the centres are clear about how many need to be uploaded, what it is, which parts of the process they need to be capturing, and how to label it correctly, and how to get the centre staff to check the quality, because the quality is really important. You need to make some remote moderation decisions based on the photographic evidence or the scanned or digital evidence. And whilst you're carrying out a centre visit, it's a good opportunity to talk about uploading of evidence, what it is that needs to be uploaded to the moderation portal, and the labelling of that evidence. So do chat to centre staff about how they need to clearly label evidence with the candidate's name, the task details, so that when you open it in the moderation portal, when it comes to remote moderation time, it's clear to you which learner this evidence relates to and what it is that the learner's completed. Ideally, if files can be compressed into one PDF or as few documents as possible, that will really save you time when it comes to accessing the documents in the moderation portal. There is a document, there's a link to it on this slide, which says requirements for uploading evidence. So that's a document for centres. It's a good idea to take it out with you or to point it out on the website, but it basically lists or explains how evidence should be uploaded and then the file formats that are acceptable in the moderation portal. So again, good opportunity to go through the assessment pack requirements if there's any specific instructions, but do make sure you have a chat about the uploading of evidence as well and the deadlines associated with those particular uploads. After the visit, the reporting process. So this slide illustrates the process you need to follow when you've drafted and when you've finalised your visit report. So within 2 working days, you need to have sent your draft copy of your centre visit report to your principal or lead moderator. They're going to review it and there may well be some feedback which you need to act upon. Once they're happy with the report form, they'll ask you to finalise it and send it to the technicals quality team. So you should be sending what we would call a clean version of the report form. So any track changes should be removed, any comments should be removed, and that report form should be in a state that's you're happy for it to be shared with the centre. So the technicals quality team will then finalise that, they'll put it into a PDF format and they will send that to the centre within 7 working days. So it's quite a quick turnaround for this particular activity, because once you've given verbal feedback, then the expectation is that there's a report with the centre the next week really. So do bear in mind that there's quite a quick turnaround for your reporting at this point of the year. Once you've submitted your report to the Technicals Quality team, don't forget to retain those practical observation notes that you took, because you will need that when it comes to the remote moderation activity. And the sample that's uploaded by the Centre for Remote Moderation will include at least 50% of those candidates that you observed during the visit. To support you in your centre visit report form completion, there are some resources on the Moderator document library. I've taken a snapshot of that section here. So if you go to the document library and then into centre visit documents, you'll see these come down on the drop down menu. Now the blank report form template is the third highlighted one here. So that's the moderation visit feedback. Now, resources to support you include a written exemplar as well as a training presentation to take you through each part of the report and the typical commentary that's expected in each section of the report. So do have a look at those resources before you complete your report forms, and it should give you a really good start as to what to include in each section. To summarise, on this form, I've pulled together a list of all of the centre visit resources that are on the Moderator document library. So if you click into that live link there on the slide and go into the centre visit section, it will bring you up these resources that I've talked about during this presentation. Now that first one, the centre visit planners, that's really important. Qualification specific information. So that's the document that outlines which tasks you'll be focused on observing whilst you're doing your centre visit. Please make sure you read those and you're familiar with those. Any questions about that, get in touch with your principal or your lead moderator. The second one is the email templates. So those are the emails you should use to get in touch with the centre, and also the next one is to confirm the centre visit date and the arrangements. And the other three are the ones that I've just talked about on the previous slide. So it's the report template itself, as well as some resources to support you through completing that report. Thanks for listening to the presentation. If you've got any questions or you need any further information, please get in touch with your lead or your principal moderator.